Your life?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So last week we talked about being O cubed, right? About how we're omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. So how's it been living in the power of O3 this week? Yeah, awesome. I see some smiles. So several of us have spent the last 2 days in that place of chanting to the divine in us. We spent time with Brenda McMorrow. There was a house concert at Ohm, which kind of celebrated the opening of Ohm at Sherry's place. It was beautiful. We had 32 people here on Saturday in the afternoon for a workshop, and we had over 56 people filling the sanctuary chanting last night. It was just wonderful. And what great, just what a great opportunity, because people got to see our sanctuary, they got to see our grounds, they got to learn a little bit more about what unity is and who we are. So it was a great opportunity. Chanting is a spiritual practice that helps renew your mind and transform your life. It's one of many spiritual practices. And as we have journeyed towards Easter together, our focus has been on renewing your mind and transforming your life through spiritual practices that more than likely Jesus, our way shower, also used. And so today we travel on, getting closer and closer to Palm Sunday and closer to Easter by looking at one of the foundational unity teachings. It is that upon which everything else in unity rests. And it is the practice of affirmations and denials. Now, for those of you who do not know, long before unity came into existence, we had two explorers, the Fillmores. And they loved to explore and to ask questions and to wonder about this presence of God in their life. And they were very active in their prayer life. And through affirmations and denials, both of them were cured of things that appeared to be incurable. Our dear Myrtle Fillmore was never expected to live into adulthood, and yet she lived way past that. And she claims it was because of affirmations and denials. Charles Fillmore, when he was younger, was in an accident, ice skating accident, and he had a withered hip. But yet he believed that hip could come, that leg could come back to life. And at the time of his death, he had just a slight limp. Whereas a child, he'd been on crutches for a while and had to walk with a cane and other means of support. So affirmations and denial are foundational to this awakening with an attitude of gratitude. In Job, we read, "You will decree a matter, and it will be established for you, and the light will shine on all your ways." You will decree a matter, and it will be established for you, and light will shine on all your ways. Affirmations are that decree. Affirmation is claiming the truth, claiming what you know to be the truth beyond circumstances. I just had a conversation just before the service about, so do we have to, if we keep affirming it, eventually it'll come true, right? Well, that's if you've rotor-rooted your spiritual drain so that water's flowing through and you can receive. So, and that's where denials come through. I think about denials, I love what Linda Martella Whitsitt says about denials. She calls them spiritual X-lax. So, our pipes get clogged up with all kinds of junk. Ideas about how we're unworthy. Ideas about how other people are unworthy. Ideas about how people treat us and being a victim. And ideas about people not doing things right. So we spent a lot of time judging, criticizing, and evaluating our circumstances. And that's like sludge in the pipes, right? It kind of stops us up. And it keeps spirit from being able to flow through us. And so denials aren't pretending that something isn't existing, right? It's not pretending that I am the size that I am. It's not pretending, that I have a hurt leg or I need to have my cataracts removed. It's not pretending that something doesn't exist. A denial is about denying that something has power over you. It is that willingness to say, yeah, that might be where I'm at right this minute, but that is not going to dominate my life. Yes, I may have some physical pain, but that doesn't mean I can't be happy, joyous, and free. Yes, I may be in an uncomfortable situation. I may be facing a challenge, but that does not define who I am, because I am more than that. And that's the whole purpose. So denials are statements of release, statements of letting go. It is being able to say, this will not define who I am. This will not control my life. This will not dominate my thinking. Sometimes I think about, we read the story during Lent sometimes of Jesus being in the desert and being tempted. And there's a part at the end of those 3 temptations where he says, Satan, get behind thee. I've heard many a Southern minister say that. Let me say it one more time. I have to channel my inner Southern Baptist. Satan, get behind thee. For us, that is us saying, negative thoughts, out of here. I'm not listening to you. I don't know about you, but I have a committee in my head. It sounds like different people in my life at different times. My mother can be one of those voices. Sometimes it's my very own voice that's saying, you're going to screw that up. You better watch out. That's not good. Oh, I knew that was going to turn out bad. That's always the way it turns out, right? And sometimes we have to say, stop. Get behind me. I'm not listening to you. There's a higher truth, and that's what I'm going to listen to. That higher truth. And so affirmations are statements of truth. Now, they have to be the truth as you know it in this minute. They have to be what you know to be true. So I would love to say that someday I'm going to be on the cover of Vogue. I'm not really. I would someday like to see my name up in shining lights on a billboard somewhere. And that may or may not ever happen. Chances are probably not. Unless it's missing person, maybe. I don't know. So, cancel, right? So, we can't affirm what we don't believe. So you can't walk around saying, I'm going to be a size 12 by summer and eat ice cream every day. It doesn't work that way, right? So affirmations have to be based in the truth of what you understand. One of my best truths I learned in recovery was, this too shall pass. So even when I don't think it's going to turn out well, and even when I can't see that I'm going to learn something from it, I do at least know that it's going to pass, just as winter passed and made room for the spring. Jesus was great at affirmations. He said things like, I am the light of the world. I am the Son of God. I am the shepherd. I am the vine. Nowhere in the New Testament do you hear Jesus say, I wonder if I could be the light of the world. I wonder. You never hear him ask, I think I might be, but I'm really not sure. Is it possible? Maybe I could be a vine? I don't know. Right? He made statements of truth, firm statements of truth. And that's what affirmations are all about. Affirming what we know to be true. Affirming that we have within us everything that we need. So several people have asked me about the Lord's Prayer and have voiced an opinion that they've missed it. They've missed us reciting it. And I was thinking about the Lord's Prayer as I was thinking about affirmations and denials. Charles Fillmore once said that the Lord's Prayer was the ultimate example of affirmative prayer. He wrote, Jesus was quite positive and very determined in his affirmations. He made big claims for God and demonstrated them. His prayers were made of one strong affirmation after another. The Lord's Prayer is a series of determined affirmations. So it's not that the Lord's Prayer does not have value. What I want you to understand is Jesus didn't say, pray this. In fact, Bible scholars, as they've gone back through and reinterpreted the documents and the writings about that time, say that that isn't what he said at all. He said, pray like this. It was a blueprint. It was an example. Try this out. See how this works for you. It wasn't a pray this word for word to get what you want. It was, here's an example of how you might think about praying. And we've taken it somewhere else. And so the thing about the Lord's Prayer is it is full of affirmations and denials. It is also written in a language that predates the 1800s. We don't say thee and thou anymore, or thy, right? We don't talk that way anymore. And so it's important to understand that it was meant as a blueprint. I think that Jesus knew when he said, pray like this. Here's an example of how to pray. He knew that as we walked in truth, as we lived the truth of who we are, as we lived expansively, that our consciousness would grow, that we would mature, that we would develop, and that we would have a greater understanding of what it means to be in relationship with each other, to be in relationship with the divine. And so I would say that although it has value, it does have value as affirmation, and many of us have become attached to it, and it brings us comfort. It is not reflective of the consciousness that we hold today. It's not reflective of the consciousness that unity holds today, of the principles that unity has put forth. And so I would ask you to hold that loosely and to begin to think of the Lord's Prayer as a template for you developing your own affirmations and denials. So the Lord's Prayer begins with Our Father. Now, many of us grew up with that image. I did, of God up in heaven. He sat on a big throne. He had a long white beard, you know. But what we know today in our consciousness is that there is a power and a presence that is everywhere present. There is a power that dwells within us, not out here somewhere. And so instead of Our Father, we might consider all that is. I center myself in all that I am and all that surrounds me. In the Old Testament, when Moses said, who shall I say send me, we read, I am that I am. That's why I am is the most powerful affirmation in the world. I am joy, I am peace, I am love. I am. The second part of the prayer goes, hallowed, who art in heaven. Who art in heaven. You know, we used to have this belief system that everybody died and went some special place if you were good enough. And so heaven was this far-off place with golden streets, and all of my dead cats and dogs lived there, and Aunt Mabel and Great Aunt Josephine, all of them lived up there in heaven. And someday I was going to visit. I wasn't always sure I wanted to visit there. Yet Jesus in his teachings taught us that the kingdom of heaven is within. Heaven is a consciousness. Heaven is our center point. our God positioning system. It is the love, the peace, the joy, the wisdom, the harmony that we feel when we are standing in the middle of all that God is. Have you ever gotten up in the morning and felt like all was right with the world? Like everything was right. That's your center point. That's heaven. That feeling of just being right where you're supposed to be. That hallowed be thy name. So the root of hallowed is whole and healthy. So far, if we look at the affirmations, we affirm, I am all that God is. I stand in the center of that awareness. I stand in heaven. Whole and healthy. I claim my wholeness and my health. Webster's talks about it being revered and holy, this hallowed be thy name. My name is wholeness. My name is holy. I am holy and I'm whole. Give us this day our daily bread. So Jesus put this in here as a reminder. So he was speaking to Jewish people who have this long legacy. And in the Old Testament, the Israelites were enslaved to Egypt. And they were released from Egypt and they wandered around in the desert for 40 years. Some of us believe that was because the man was leading the tribe and wouldn't let the woman ask for directions. I don't know if that's true or not. But the Israelites were pretty fond during that journey of grumbling. Every time things didn't go exactly their way, they liked to complain a little bit. So at one point they're complaining, you brought us out of slavery to starve us to death. You're just going to starve us to death. We're all hungry. There's nothing to eat. And so God rained down manna. Now we have no idea what manna is, but it was a substance that nourished their bodies. And they could only gather enough of it for one day. If they kept any extra, it spoiled and had to be thrown out in the morning. So give us this day our daily bread is a reminder that we only have this moment right now. And in this moment, we have everything that we need. There's no point in worrying about tomorrow because the universe is abundant. The universe is full of substance, waiting for us to ask, waiting for us to affirm, awaiting for us to receive. And so every day we have everything that we need, and that's what we're affirming. Instead of give us this day our daily bread, I know that the universe is abundant and that I have everything that I need. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Eric Butterworth once wrote that this is the simplest way to lighten our load. I've talked before that we don't forgive for the other person. We forgive for us because we're the ones carrying the burden. And when we say forgive, we are giving for. We are giving up that resentment. We're giving up that judgment. We're giving up what's causing us pain for freedom, for peace, for harmony. Forgive us our debts. The first person I have to forgive every day is me. Because sometimes my behavior is anything but ministerly. I know you have a hard time believing that. Once had a friend that said, when I look at you and I think about your halo, I see it tarnished and crooked. So every day I begin with knowing that it's a new day. And I release and let go of everything that happened yesterday. And I do my best to make straight the path of today. To clean up what I need to clean up. And I remember that not only am I divine, but you are divine. And so you too are of Christ. And I have to look out and see the God in you, no matter what. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Fillmore believed that we should change that to leave. Leave us not into temptation, because the truth of the matter is there's always temptation. Have you noticed once you decided what you were going to fast from in Lent, you had plenty of opportunities to pick it back up again? You know? I heard people say that they fasted from Facebook, they decided to fast from the news, and then they would go to work and people would say, did you see the latest that president did? You know, like it's easy to get lured back in. Temptation is all about distraction. We live in a distracted world. Sit in a restaurant and watch people. It is like impossible for people to sit 2 minutes without picking up their phone. Even if they're pretending to listen to you. Are you dinged? You know. We live in a distracted world. We are always bombarded with information, with opportunities, with things to buy, to purchase, to eat, to see, to do. So it's very easy for us to get distracted. So the denial is that in this moment, I will turn away from everything that's distracting me from my path. I will focus on what's important. I will focus on what enlivens me. I will focus on living expansively. So leave us not into temptation, but deliver us from our own thinking. So evil is all about that collective consciousness. It's all those thoughts that we've thought over and over and over and over again. I remember when gas prices were really high, and everywhere you went, people talked about how high the gas prices were. What do you think that consciousness did to the gas prices? Yes, right? We created that with our thinking. When we start thinking that there's not enough, or that the world's going to hell in a handbasket because whoever's in charge, then guess what happens? That. So leave us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We are the only ones that can deliver us. We are the only ones who can renew our minds, change our thoughts, transform the world. It's not someone else. It's us. And the last part, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. It's interesting that that was added way later, like long, long after Jesus and the disciples could have walked the earth. But yet it's a powerful reminder of what Claudia Carolyn just sung about. It's a reminder that we have everything we need within us. We have all of the power that we need. We have the love, the imagination, the power, the judgment, the understanding, the zeal, the power to eliminate, to renunciate, the faith, the life, the order, the wisdom, the strength. All of that is who we are. All of it. And so we live in gratitude and appreciation for that. Living in gratitude and appreciation, an attitude of gratitude. I start every morning with thank you. Thank you. Just one thank you can set your course in a whole new direction, can help recenter you and rebalance you. I am transformed by the renewing of my mind. Can you say that with me? I am transformed by the renewing of my mind. Say that one more time and just take that in. I am transformed by the renewing of my mind. And so it is. Amen.